your hand to me and you say hello. I can hardly speak, all is feeling so, and anyone can tell. You think you know me well, but you don't know me. Dreams of you at night, want to kiss your lips, want to hold you tight. To you I'm just a friend, that's all I've ever been. You don't know me. Oh, my holidays with love for you. Great and shy, I've let my chance go by. Chance that you might love me too. Give your hand to me, then you say goodbye. Watch you walk away.
Tell me about this recommended pizza that you
yeah,
had.
I suggest you a pizza that you can't find any other where in Guiyang. I substitute the tomato sauce with bechamel sauce. I don't know if you know bechamel sauce is a white sauce made with milk, flour, butter. It's the classical, the one you find in lasagna. You know lasagna?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the white sauce in lasagna is bechamel. So here I use a parmesan, bechamel, and pancetta that you American call bacon.
Oh, okay. Pancetta
Pancetta, yeah.
is pagan, right?
Bacon, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. And yeah, and then you we're gonna have a couple Italian beers, right?
Yeah.
And a juice.
Yeah, she choose chocolate peanuts, mango.
Mango, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So this is Simone. He owns the restaurant.
Hello.
And this is Sarah.
Hi.
She's from China. And this is Martin. And where are you from, Martin?
Australia, New Zealand.
Okay. So, and this is me. I am from northern Michigan. And we're going to have a little talk about this COVID situation, but first we're going to order some food.
Okay.
So Sarah, you wanted to know about what's happening in Italy, and that made me think we should come over and visit Simone at his restaurant. And then Simone can tell us about Italy. But we've been talking about the virus already. And I was talking about the U.S. New York City had a lot of European virus. It came from China, I think, and then it came
Are you getting
through
a message
Europe.
from America now?
Yeah, I stay in touch. I always read the newspapers and everything, and I talk to my sister. She lives in Detroit,
Yeah.
so I get a lot of information about that. But yeah, we're talking about the hot spots, and I found that in New York. Hey, Simone, you got the pizza ready, right?
Yeah. 1 second.
Okay,
I
great.
take also the other one.
Oh my. Okay. This is Simone's Speak Pizza, and what's it called? What's the name of it?
Call this one.
And it's called Modena. Modena is a city in central
Modena.
Italy. It's called. It takes the name of this
Okay.
city.
It's got a white sauce instead of tomatoes.
Right.
Okay, so we're talking about the virus already, Simone, so just join us when you get the food ready.
How do we get that?
Okay, we're gonna have to wait for a minute. Okay, so what were you saying? For you follow this virus stuff around New Zealand and Australia. What happened in New Zealand and Australia?
They got on it immediately, shut it down, shut the place down, stopped international travel, closed businesses that were interacting with, that had lots of people.
And when did that happen? Was it the end of
Straight away,
January?
End of January.
End of January. And you had one of those ocean liners that was a big...
Yeah, Ruby Princess it was called.
Okay.
And that went to New Zealand first and started infecting New Zealand, and then it went to Australia, and in Australia they really stuffed up.
So you had a boat full of tourists wander around New Zealand and left the virus there.
And that same boatload went to Australia, and then they all unloaded at Australia without being checked. And that's the biggest source of infection in Australia now, is the Ruby Princess. It's more than a quarter of the infection in Australia.
Well, now where do you live in Australia?
Darwin, the Northern Territory.
Okay, you got any problems there?
Darwin got onto it straight away, shut the place down, stopped travel. If you arrive in Darwin from interstate or from overseas, you have to spend 2 weeks in quarantine. That's strictly enforced.
That's from anywhere else in Australia?
Yeah.
You come into Darwin, you get quarantined?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
They have to look out for the local Aboriginal population up there, which lives in the bush. If the virus got there, it would be catastrophic. So we've managed to stop that in the Northern Territory. So the Northern Territory hasn't had any new infections for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I think.
Okay.
And they're going to gradually open it up, but only gradually.
Okay, now do you know the status in New Zealand? That's your home country, is New Zealand, right?
Yeah. They've moved from stage 4, which was the severe restriction. They've moved from there now to stage 3, which is less restrictive environment. You can now go out jogging, you can swim in the sea, and you can and various shops are open. I think you still have to wear masks. Your temperature's still taken when you're going into public buildings, things like that. But they've relaxed the restrictions a little in New Zealand, and they're starting to reopen schools, I think, in New Zealand. Not everyone's happy about that, but we'll see how that goes.
Okay. So, was there much resistance to the government cracking down on people?
No, not as much as you've obviously seen in America. They've been more sensible. There's been a sense of community. Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand managed to galvanise the country together, and it's an us against the virus thing, and she and everybody in New Zealand felt included.
That's the president of New Zealand got.
Prime Minister, yeah.
Prime Minister of New Zealand got everybody on the same team.
Yeah,
and
that's right. And if you're making regular appearances, telling them the truth, and getting everybody involved, she's been absolutely terrific. In Australia, they've had a lot of success too. They've flattened it in Australia, most states in Australia. They've got similar figures to New Zealand in terms.
Okay, very good.
More pizza.
The food is going to be ready. Simone, why don't you sit down and tell us what's happening in Australia? Because
I can tell you something about Italy. I don't know so much about Australia.
I'm sorry. Italy.
Yeah.
Sarah started this whole idea because she asked me about Italy, and I said, well, I gave her an answer that I read in the news, but I really didn't know. So I thought, well, I know somebody from Italy, and we've talked a little bit about this. So.
Yeah. Okay, the actual situation was going on in these days. We started the one we called phase 2. So some companies reopened. People now is not closed at home in quarantine as they used to be for 2 months. For 2 months, the Italian people just stayed at home. Of course, we have some rules to respect. Like we cannot. If you don't have a certification, because you need to write a kind of certification, you need to fill out a module to say where you're going and the reason why you are going in some place.
So you're not free to travel in Italy yet?
You are free to travel in your region. But
Okay.
we're not like the US with states. We have different regions. So I'm from Milan. I can go in Lombardy. That is the region where Milano is. But I have to fill a module who says I'm going here for this reason. I'm going to meet my mom because she's sick. I'm going to meet my wife because she lives in another town. This the way we have
So
to.
you got to contact the government and tell them in
No, you
advance?
just
or-
need to write this,
Oh,
to fill
okay.
this form, keep in your pocket. If the police stops you, you show this, and they can trust you. If they don't trust you, they have to find a way to understand if it's true or not. So now we had this big problem with people who had to stay home. They had no money to feed themselves because I understand 2 months without income,
So you're shut down for 2 months now?
right? Well, 2 months. Now we just open at the beginning of this week. Last Monday we kind of reopen a little.
Last Monday you're just beginning to reopen.
Yes.
Was there government assistance for people without jobs or without money coming in?
They said that they are going to pay like 60% of your salary.
Really?
60% of salary. That's good.
That's good.
But at the moment, no one has seen this money. Maybe,
Oh.
maybe they're gonna come in 2 or 3 months.
Mm.
You say, damn, maybe in 2 months I will go to work, I will have mine coming. I need this money right now. So they find some agreement with banks, and the bank starts to give money first, waiting for to get money from the government.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't so easy because you need to have you need to respect certain criteria to get this money from bank. So bank didn't give money to everyone. But okay, my salary is, I don't know, is only 1,000 euro a month. So I have no money to pay the rent, to buy even a piece of bread. So in this case, the bank.
Have you heard about starvation in Italy? Are they eating?
So far, no one is starving. So far, everything has been okay. People are, of course, I talk with my friends. They're worried if now they opened, but if the virus explodes once again, they're gonna close. And what they do?
Yeah.
In that case, the situation can be bad.
What happened? When did you first hear about this virus in your home? It's your hometown, right?
Oh yeah.
When did you hear about it?
You know, like it happens like in all the wars. At the beginning, people, it's just a flu, it's nothing. Only old people get sick, and if you're already sick, you can make you worse. You can die. At the beginning, it was really like a joke.
Oh.
This happened in Italy. This happened in Spain, in France, in the US, in all the wars. Even in China at the beginning. People from Wuhan say that it's nothing, everything's under control.
Yeah.
So this is what happened everywhere. Only when the number of cases increased a lot, people say, oh wait, that is not just a normal flu.
Yes.
Number of cases just kept going up.
Yeah.
Because that's what we were hearing in the U.S. a lot. This is just another kind of flu. Maybe it's worse than the other flu, but it's just a flu. We have flu every year, right?
Yeah.
It's not like American things. It's just like flu. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're strong. We can take it.
At least an injection of disinfectant and everything's gonna be fine, right?
Yeah.
So how about now Italy is serious?
As I said before, now we started again to live because before we were like in a jail, closed to home.
Yeah.
I talk almost every day with my friends in Italy, and a lot of them came back to work. Maybe now they don't work every day. Maybe they just go 3-4 days a week.
Okay.
So in this way, the company can rotate all the people working there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they have to respect like a 2 meters distance between two people. So even before we were working at this distance, our two desks were this far. Now I cannot sit here. I need to sit there. So
you spread out the same people. Everybody gets to work, but you don't work on the same days, and there's
Right,
more separation.
Right.
Okay.
Less people. I mean, less people, but at least everyone now is working.
Well, I told Sarah that I thought Italy was more serious, like almost like China, trying to lock down and just get rid of the virus.
Yeah, that's what we did for 2 months. But just, Italian people, not easy to control.
They like to hug each other, right?
Right.
Is it worse than American?
Kind of similar. If at the very beginning, oh no, this is my freedom. You cannot tell me to stay close.
Yeah.
I'm
right.
a free person. I need to go out. I need to do what you want. It was something very funny. At the very beginning, looks like everyone became a runner. Everyone wanted to go out jogging. Probably people that had jogging last time, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. At the very beginning, everyone needed to go out to run. Everyone needed to walk their dog 10 times a day. So it was like people joking about that because it was fun. But actually, yes, we took it seriously a little late, as everyone in all the world.
But it sounded like your numbers were bigger and earlier than everybody else.
Yes, we still have to find out why.
Why?
Why we were the first people in Europe to get this, to have a so high number.
Maybe the too many old people,
Yeah, but the old people are easy to get it. But who spread this virus from the beginning? This is something that no one really understood. How it started, because it's like all the flight, because the beginning was only in China. All the flights from China were closed. So all people who come from China has to stay this 14 days quarantine in the hospital if you have fever, or at home if you have nothing, if you were fine. So how is it possible that happened?
So it hit Milan, and you're from Milan, right?
Right.
Did you have any friends that got the virus?
Fortunately, no.
Okay.
Any friends, any relatives, but talking with my parents, they told me, okay, my parents are not young anymore, of course. Talking to them, they told me that they know some people that actually died because of the virus.
I see.
They were old, they had problems, but they know someone who died. I didn't know these people, but my parents knew.
How did it spread? Was it old people and giving it to old people, or did young people give it to their parents?
At the very beginning, we thought that there were 2 guys who came in Wuhan, but we're talking about still in 2019. It was still last year, like in November, December.
Oh.
They were in Wuhan. So at the very beginning, they thought that these people were the one who spread the virus. Because they were also the first Italians. Because we had also some Chinese citizens with this virus in Italy before the bad things happened. So everyone saw that these people, so they analyzed all the situation, and they said, no, probably they were not the case zero. I don't know how you say in English. The first one who spread it.
Yeah. Adam, right? We have Adam and Eve, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, what is the situation now in Italy? Are you still getting more viruses, or?
Okay, the numbers are going down. This is why we are able to reopen. Now, before we were like 4,000 or 5,000 people a day with the virus, and more than 400 600 dead people a day.
Oh, 400 to 600 a day.
Yeah, I mean, we are not the U.S. We are
Right.
not a big country. Italy only 60 million people live in Italy.
Oh, okay.
60 million?
60 million, yes.
The whole country.
The whole country, yes.
Mm.
My God.
Yeah, don't think about the Chinese numbers. For us, Milano is a huge city. It's 1 million of people. 1 million of people live in Milan, and
Yeah.
for us, it's a huge city. I mean, European numbers, European sizes are a little different than.
How many got sick and how many died in it?
Now we are less than 2,000 sick every day, and
New sick.
new sick, less than 2,000.
Wow.
But the most important thing is the dead people. The recovered people are more than the dead people, and the dead people are less than 150 a day.
Okay.
So
You know
this is a good number for thinking about it 2 months before.
Out of 60 million people, how many have died and how many got sick? Do you know?
We just passed yesterday 30,000 dead people.
Oh, wow.
30,000. That is a huge number for us.
Sure
It is.
30,000.
My
Huge.
God.
It's a
It
huge
is,
number
that's-
for us.
Huge.
Yeah. Well, Sarah-
Only in Europe, only the UK has a higher number of dead.
Mhm.
Spain
Hmm.
is there. France is close.
Mhm.
We had these strange things happening in Germany because the number of sick people is not that far from the Italian numbers, but they only have like 9,000 people dead. It's something that all Europe see. How is it possible?
Mm.
How are you treating these people? And
Yeah.
we would like to understand, to know what they did and try to copy what they did.
Did they just catch the virus earlier? Do you think that's
They
what
say
happened?
that the fact is that they don't have so many old people.
Oh.
This is the main reason what the German government said.
Oh, okay. Well, Sarah, you mentioned Italy. Why did you ask about Italy when you asked me what is going on in Italy? Do you remember?
If it was.
You didn't know about Italy. You used to read about Italy, but then all of a
Oh
sudden.
yeah, maybe 1 month ago I will search on the internet. No, I didn't need to search. Can show me the numbers, situation what about America, about Italy. But
Mhm.
now it's seldom to see to show the news about the Italy. Maybe it's get better. Or
Okay.
I don't know.
So you were very curious about,
Mhm.
you read about Italy all the
Yeah,
time, and then all of a
but-
sudden nothing. Huh?
Yeah, about now is maybe the internet will pay more attention to about the America.
Mm.
Now it's about 1.3 million people get the virus, and
Mhm.
maybe died is about almost
About 75 now.
really.
75,000 dead in America.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hear about with my friends now a lot of Americans wanted to get back to work, yeah,
Mhm.
and they will go on the street to they
Demonstrate.
demonstrate,
Yeah.
demonstrate. They wanted to get the freedom.
What do Chinese think about that when they see the TV and
The Western countries search and the Chinese countries search maybe are different. At first we think, why is it okay? It's unbelievable. Why is it do this?
Mhm.
They just want to get lost their life.
Yeah.
Why stay at home? Maybe it's get better. You can back work.
Mhm.
So it's different, sir. Maybe or the second means we have food. We can live. Maybe I don't know how about in America. They can live
Mhm.
alive when they can have the food in the home, and maybe in China it's very crowded. the people, but in American media, you go out and seldom people around. Maybe it's
Right.
okay, but different. But I don't know.
Very different.
I don't
yeah.
know the Americans thought about this virus. Maybe they think it's okay. It's just like flu, and maybe it's a serious. That's like a
A
different.
lot of them didn't believe it. They don't believe
Don't
that
know.
it was serious.
It's.
But now more and more they're getting to believe it. Yeah.
I don't know. There's a rarely video. It's about Trump's speech about face the people. It's about it's okay. We try our best. We wear down, and just maybe below the 10,000 and 100,000 people die. It's okay. I at that time it's really a joke.
Yeah, right,
And
right.
it's unbelievable that if I were if my president say this, maybe it's impossible. Impossible
Okay.
to say.
We aren't going to talk about the presidents. We just want to talk about what's going on. And
What's going on? I don't
Yeah.
know about America, just like UK, they like told the citizens you can go out, but really they don't go out. But in America, you forbid to go out, but they only want to go out.
yeah, because we're free. Yeah, because we're free. Well, Martin, I'm going to turn this around. Maybe you can adjust it because I'm making a video and make sure that shines on my face. Okay, you can adjust. Is that right? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So anyway, I'm making a video because we have all these different people that are getting paid by, well, Republicans and Democratic Party. They have an election and they're talking about the virus like politics, like who's right, who's wrong, and then you have corporations like pharmaceutical companies, the big corporations, and they have certain ideas like, oh, don't worry, we're going to have a virus, we're going to have a vaccine for the virus pretty soon. So, and some people want to go back to work because they're afraid they're going to hurt the economy. And I don't know what a lot of people are thinking because I haven't been there, but I know that Republicans and Democrats always disagree. Disagree. Yeah, they argue about different things, and they can talk about why they shouldn't do something a lot more than why they should do something. So it's really difficult to make a decision. Now, I sent a letter to my old government. I used to be in the government in Traverse City. So I sent a letter and said, listen, I know a lot about this virus. I've been through two lockdowns. One was when they had the SARS epidemic 17 years ago, and then this last one I got locked down. So when I first heard about this was January 20th, and I saw the picture of a wedding where everybody had a mask on except one person didn't have a mask on. And I thought, wow, they were really serious about this. January 20th, that was in Wuhan. And then on, I think it was the 23rd, they decided we're going to lock down Wuhan. And it was right in the middle of Spring Festival. I mean, everybody was leaving the country and traveling to the countryside. A very inconvenient time to have a lockdown.
That was the point. Probably
Yeah.
the very unlucky moment
Yeah.
where everyone just goes all around the country, all around the world,
Yeah.
not just in China.
But I thought, because I was here during SARS was discovered, I think, in November or December of 2002. And then I'm reading about SARS in the newspapers in the U.S. on the internet. Oh, SARS is going crazy in China, and the government was saying, oh, we don't have a problem. Tourists can come to China. You don't have to worry. We've got SARS under control. But then the other, from outside of the country, they're going, well, it's crazy. You don't want to go to China, So then they changed presidents. Jiang Zemin went out. Hu Jintao came in. And at the beginning of April, Hu Jintao said, we've had a cover-up. We've got a problem with the virus, and we haven't been telling anybody. So we're going to do whatever the WHO says, and we're going to have full disclosure. And so from now on, we're going to make this our top priority. And it took them a couple months to get rid of SARS. It's just my memory from 17 years ago. After Hu Jintao, made that statement, everybody was checking my temperature. I was a teacher at a school. We had a lockdown in the school, and they tested my temperature every morning before I met the students. Yeah, the doctor would come and test my temperature. And so once they decided to fight it, they were fighting, everywhere. You couldn't move around it. It was like a light switch. All of a sudden, the news never mentioned SARS, and then the beginning of April, the news was SARS, 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 just continuously. So when this thing hit in, I think about the 23rd or the 25th, they published a map of where this virus had gone, and there was 10 cases in Guizhou, 10 spots on the Guizhou map where they had the virus. And I thought, wow, we went the whole SARS epidemic, and Guizhou was far away and it never got any virus. But at the beginning of this, Guizhou already has 10 viruses, 10 cases. So I thought, oh, this is very serious. This virus is really moving fast. Because SARS, maybe it didn't move so fast, but I knew immediately this is going fast. And then when Trump closed down the border to Chinese, I thought, wow, that was a smart move. That'll help the U.S. And then the WHO said, well, we're not too worried yet because it's still not going to be transmitted from human to human. And I thought, well, how could that be? How could we get viruses in Guiyang? And we didn't have bats come down, Wuhan bats fly down to Guiyang. No, I don't believe it, So there was something wrong with that, But then February came and they opened up the airport in my hometown again, started taking jets from China. So we had 30 or 40,000 people fly into our airport. And the airport administrator said, well, we do a little extra cleaning at the airport, but we don't have any training about viruses, So, but we're making it cleaner.
They didn't check temperature.
They didn't know. They didn't know to do that.
No.
I don't know the details, but I know that they took everybody through the immigration in the same place. And then if you came from China, they sent you off to some military base for something, but that meant all the people flying in from foreign countries went through the same place where the people from China came in. So my state got hit very hard, and so did New York City, because Europeans all went into New York City, and out west, near the northwest, where Washington State, a Boeing Corporation, like that, they got a lot of virus. And New Orleans, they had a festival called the Mardi Gras. They got people from all over the country came to the festival. They got hit heavy. So it wasn't until, I remember on March 5th, we had this group of leaders making the plan to fight the virus. And there was 15 or 20 of them in the room, and nobody had a mask on. And then the president had a rally with the conservatives. They call it the CPAC, Conservative Political Action Committee, I think. Nobody had the masks on. And I thought, wow, this is pretty frightening. They don't know. They don't know what's going on. And even in March, Trump was saying, well, it's okay. We've got this under control. You can go to school. You can go back to work. We got it, And I'm just shaking my hand.
Nothing important.
Well, he didn't want people to panic, and that's what you do when this virus first comes out. If you make people panic, they're going to go all over the country. They're going to go away from wherever they are, where the virus might be, and you're going to have a lot harder time. And that's what I think happened in China. They said, don't worry, we're on top of this. And then they gave Wuhan about 10 hours notice. Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., you're not going to be able to move around the city. So
But the problem is, as you said before, it was New Year.
Yeah,
New Year.
yeah.
So a lot of sick people
Well, yeah.
already
But
were everywhere.
they were trying to stop it locally.
Mm-hmm.
The Beijing government was talking to the Wuhan government, and they were trying to stop this virus locally.
Mm-hmm.
And they had just a very short period of time in order to shut down, because it was probably the middle of January, maybe 15th or 20th. They knew had a serious problem, but then the festival is starting. So what do you do? So I think within maybe a week to 2 week period, they got the army and the police and everybody working together and said, okay, first we shut down Wuhan, then we shut down everywhere where the virus went. And they did all of that within a 2 week period. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, they're really on top of this here. Because in 2003, they denied having a problem January, February, March, and it wasn't until the beginning of April that the Beijing government said, hey, we got a big problem here. And then I turned around and I look at my own country, and I think Trump knew about this in January.
January the 3rd, he was told.
January 3rd.
January 3rd, he was told. Then he was told every couple of days, someone from one of the agencies would come and talk to him about it. There's a shouting match on about January the 10th.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was full on. He knew about it all the
Well,
the whole
what
way
would
through.
have been nice is if well, I'm not going to talk about president, but if somebody from China would have told Trump, this is serious, you better watch out.
Who told him on about the 8th? He was in December. The American knew about it. The American security agency knew about it.
Yeah,
but Trump himself was told on January the 3rd.
January 3rd.
And then he was told regularly every 2 or 3 days by either the same agencies or a new agency.
Yeah.
Look, this is getting
But he
bigger.
doesn't.
It's
He
going
didn't
through
believe
the
his
roof.
own experts. I think if the Chinese would have called him and said, watch
I
out
think
for
what
this.
you said before was probably true to a great extent, which was that he didn't want to cause panic, and he didn't want to upset the stock market. So those two things are already tied up. So he didn't want to, although they didn't want the public to panic, didn't want the stock market to collapse. So he said there are only 15 cases, one person, blah blah. It's all under control. One day it's going to magically disappear. When the warm weather comes, it'll disappear. We've got it under control. We're way ahead of the game. Blah 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 blah. And now he's running around saying, it's all Obama's fault. Obama, left us broken test kits for a disease that didn't exist back in Obama's time, and so on and so on and so on. And then he said that he had dictatorial powers over the states, and now he says he hasn't. And so, but he's encouraging all those people in Minnesota with those that were armed to the teeth, running into the governor's office. He's saying, they're all good people.
Well, mistakes were made, but
no, mistakes are continually still being made. America is going to go through the roof. It's 75,000 at the moment, and because of the attitude of the various states' governments around the place, it's going to be 150, maybe more. I don't know. You look at the Midwest. Look at Texas. Look at Florida.
But wait a minute. This is a democracy, and we've got to make some decisions. Now, my state is a classic example. It's Michigan, and Trump told all the states, "You're on your own. You got to make your own strategy." And Trump is all for starting the businesses again so people don't starve, right? You got to get...
But in other countries did it completely differently from that. Other countries, say, for example, New Zealand and Australia, actually paid people to stay home.
Right.
That's what banks do. Banks print money.
Right.
That's, it's part of the economy of running a country.
I think
they printed money and they paid people $750 a week in Australia. I'm not sure what it was.
$750 a week?
$750 a week.
Wow.
Wow.
Bloody good. More than the Social Security.
Australian dollars.
Yeah. Australian dollars, which is about 70 cents American.
75 cents or something. Yeah.
70, I think. But and New Zealand did something similar. I'm
Still,
not
it's
sure
good money.
what the figures were there. and they paid the workers. You had to register and you had to be a taxpayer and blah blah blah. And there's all sorts of things. Some people missed out. Students missed out, and there's a bit of a So people are complaining about that. But basically, the workers are paid to stay home.
So I think part of it is people are more afraid in the U.S. So they don't trust their government as much as...
Well, neither they should. Look, the government's not paying them to stay home. The government's now saying, go back to work or we won't pay you any of your social security.
Right.
America's taken this completely the wrong way. America's backing its capitalists.
It's really...
backing its big business against the worker, forcing the worker to go back when they shouldn't have to. Unbelievable.
Well, it's their decision. It's democracy. Each state has its own state government. They've got to make their own decisions. And I didn't like what Trump did when he said, you're on your own, and then he immediately said to Michigan, you're doing it wrong. And he kind of encouraged people to resist the Michigan
It's hard
government.
to discuss Trump without...
getting emotional, I know.
Yeah,
but, but that we're here to talk about the virus and what are the options. As I see it, I don't think it's too late. I think we could do a shutdown. Do a shutdown in 6 or 8 weeks, and we'll be in a position where we could stop it any time it came up.
You just shut down properly.
We get the test kits. That's what was one of the biggest problems, was the failure to have enough test kits.
Yeah.
But if we have ample test kits and shut down anywhere there's a hot spot, maybe you don't have to shut down the whole country. Where it's clear in the countryside, okay, you can't travel to and from the countryside. You got to have a passport. Yeah, do intelligently, and shut down wherever there's a hot spot. When one person comes up with a virus, you shut down his whole apartment complex.
That's what
and keep it shut down for 6 weeks, and then at the end of 2 months, it'll be like walking around in China. You still have to be careful, but you're going to be free to work. You're going to be free to do things.
There's various models that have been going in the world recently. There's people talked about the Swedish model.
Oh, God.
But the Swedish model, sure, everybody's still running around doing things and having a great time, but they've had massive death rate.
They have 10 times as much as Norway or Denmark.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because they kept the place open. And then you have the New Zealand or Australian model where they shut the place down straight away, and in New Zealand they've wiped it out, and in Australia they've flattened it. They've only had 100 deaths in Australia, and they've got a couple of new cases around the place. But it's basically, but they got onto it straight away. South Korea, they got onto it straight away.
South Korea is very interesting because they had a massive outbreak, and they just did it the old-fashioned way. They did the contact tracing.
Yeah.
Anybody that had a virus, they had to find out who he was, who he talked to. And they had enough people to go after it. Now, as I see it in the U.S., we've got a whole lot of people just sitting at home in their apartment. We need to put them to work tracing this virus.
In China, all the apartment buildings, people were going on the gates, and they had people were testing your temperature, and you had to photograph that, do your little WeChat thing on that. Yeah. All those people they actually mobilised people to get.
And those
that
are my neighbors. Those are people that live in the apartment house, and we don't have neighborhood groups that take control of the neighborhood. Condominium associations have a formal situation, but most of these are single-family residences, and a lot of people don't know who their neighbor is. So they're very, very independent. So that's what I would say needs to be done. They need to get a good neighborhood groups all over, so everybody's watching out for each other. That's what needs to happen, I think.
Different things, and in the taller cities, you can follow more the Chinese model, and the larger spread out places you'd have to work other ways. But you have to get the population on board, which means you've got to stop the lying to your population. You've got to tell them the truth. See, Cuomo in New York actually told the truth the whole way through. It was not a pretty
we really
sight,
screwed up 3 weeks ago, but we've learned a lot since then.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah, right.
So people believe him. So he's managed to mobilise the state, massively hit, but now they're starting to get it under control. Well, other places are just denying it. People like in Texas are saying you know, oh, there's a certain sort of a cull rate, you know, we can lose people.
We need to have the legal right to stop any car or truck crossing a state border. So if my state does take my advice and cleans up the whole state, we can't have people from Ohio and Indiana crossing the border and bringing in truckloads of
Well,
virus.
they did that in Australia. They shut down all the interstate traffic.
Yeah.
And it was not too difficult.
Well, there's a lot of strategies, but I want to finish this meeting and basically say that this is one hell of a pizza, Simone. This is good, and I appreciate everybody here. This is Simone, Sarah. Thanks for thinking of this idea, and Martin. I appreciate your information, and we'll just sign off and leave it at that.
Say goodbye.